territories. And PSN is customized really to account for the local violent crime problems and resources. Across all the districts, PSN follows 4 key design elements. The first being community engagement, prevention and intervention, focused and strategic enforcement, and accountability. And we'll highlight those a little later more in the presentation. A major goal of PSN really is to incorporate research and data analysis and lessons learned from other violent crime reduction initiatives to inform, better decision making and the most impactful violence reduction strategies. Next slide.
So for this year's funding amounts, it's the total amount is $600,377 for the 3 task force areas, and this includes 77th area, Southeast area, and the city of San Bernardino. This amount is divided in 4 portions. One is law enforcement, where 30 to 35% of the funding should be allocated to. Intervention rehabilitation programs, where 25 to 30% of the funding should be allocated to. Prevention and outreach programs, where 25% to 30% of the funding should be allocated to. And the research partner, where up to 10% can be allocated to. Additionally, as mentioned earlier, for this year we have we're funding 4 micro grants. They're going to be $50,000 per grant, and this is gonna be for outside the 3 task force areas.
Great. Next slide. Oh, I think you skipped over one.
I skip over. Oh, sorry.
Here we go. So one of the focus program areas is the law enforcement. So just like it highlights here, with law enforcement, some of the things that we're looking at is, tackling violent crimes, geographic hotspots for crime prevention, known shooters and chronic violent offenders. There's other opportunities that law enforcement can work on or apply for, equipment that relates to violent crime reduction or other investigations, community outreach programs, investigative software for violent crime investigations. So these are just a sample of some of the focus area here. Next slide, please. When we're talking about intervention and rehabilitation, we're looking at programs that provide services for at-risk communities to address the drivers of gang and gun violence. So we're looking at programs that provide opportunities for community reentry, alternatives to gang membership, gang violence, gun violence, community reentry projects, programs, that type of engagement. Next slide, please. When we're talking about prevention and outreach, again, we're looking at programs that engage youth, prevention of juvenile delinquency, gang membership, again, outreach programs. An example can be to federal firearm licensees and the public to encourage, responsible and safe gun ownership. That's a possibility there. Program focused on reducing violence during the summer. And in the notice of funding availability, we talk a little bit about, we really highlight we built in a summer violence reduction strategy. And that's really to highlight and engage the communities during the summer months when we tend to see a spike in crime, or there's more of a propensity for violence during those summer months. So we've incorporated that into our PSN program to really ask our service providers to create programs during those summer months for the youth and the community. Every aspect of the program will be able to provide some sort of summer violence reduction strategy, whether it's the law enforcement piece, prevention, intervention. Please, if folks have any questions, I'm not monitoring the chat, but Jen, if you see any questions while I'm speaking or while Ruben's speaking, we can totally just, pause the presentation and take anything if folks have a specific question to any slide.
You got it.
Thank you. Next slide, Ruben. Okay, so the last focus area that we're highlighting is going to be the research partner. And for the last several years, we've been partnering, or one of the funded agencies has been JSS, or Justice and Security Strategies. As the research partner, their role is really to compile, analyze, and share the data about the PSN strategy that's being implemented. And that goal is to also measure the program's effectiveness, and really gives us an opportunity, and really gives a service provider an opportunity to pause and pivot if needed, if they need to make adjustments to their programming, or really to highlight those successes. And if there's any challenges, they can also help point that out. One of the great things about Project Safe Neighborhoods, it has a tremendous amount of resources with regard to training and technical assistance. There's a national PSN training and technical assistance services that are available to all PSN funded service providers. So that's something that, as folks are funded and they have issues, or they want to enhance their programming, or they want to tap into just other resources that are available for them, they can reach out to the training and technical assistance through the PSN program at no cost to the agency. So another really great key feature of the PSN program. Next slide, please. So as Jen highlighted when she was doing her introduction, so a key component of the program is to continue to fund the three task force areas. Again, the three task force areas are the City of San Bernardino, LAPD 77th area, LAPD Southeast area. And then we also introduced micro grants. And the goal of the micro grants is to be able to fund projects outside those task force areas throughout the Central District of California. The Central District of California is made up of 7 counties. So we have a very large area of responsibility. So this actually helps strengthen the PSN program and expand its reach to other areas outside of those task force areas. Next slide, please. So here you'll find a map of 77th area. Oh, quick question. So from Celine, she says, what do you exactly mean by Southeast area? Great question, Celine. So when we talk about the task force area, so I'll give you an example. If you see the map here in 77th area, all the areas that are highlighted in yellow, that's the task force area. So basically 77th area or 77th division is where the PSN program is operating. And I'll highlight it in the next slide. Next slide. This is Southeast area. So all those areas in yellow are the reporting districts for that particular police division. So that's the entire Project Safe Neighborhoods program task force area. So when we're talking about funding, we're talking about programs that are specific to the area that's highlighted. Next slide. And this is a map of the City of San Bernardino. Now, on the notice of funding availability, we have links to the maps so you could see them with more clarity. And it'll highlight, obviously it'll be a little bit more clear so you could see the boundaries of the divisions in 77th and Southeast. But for the City of San Bernardino, well, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's the entire City of San Bernardino. So if you're applying for funding in any of those categories, it would be, it could be for the City of San Bernardino. Now, with the exception of the micro grants, it's going to be everywhere outside those particular target areas. It's anywhere in the central district. And as I mentioned, the central district is 7 counties. So Los Angeles County, San Bernardino County, Orange County, Riverside, San Luis Obispo, Santa Barbara, and Ventura. 7 counties. I hope I answered your question, Samin. Okay. Next slide.
Thank you, David. So as mentioned earlier, another key component in the fiscal year 2022 PSN strategic plan is to fund 4 microgrants with the goal to support small-scale, large impact crime reduction efforts within the Central District outside the identified PSN task force areas. Now, the process to apply for microgrants is the same as if you would apply for one of the 3 task force areas. You must follow the application process and identify the proposed programs, focus program areas, whether it's law enforcement, intervention, rehabilitation, and prevention outreach. And please let me know if you have any questions. Stop me anytime. Okay, now for the application process and guidelines. So the application deadline is on April 24th, 2023 at 5 p.m. Pacific time. All of the applicants must submit the following components, which include the program narrative, the budget detail worksheet, and the certified assurances. Now, the budget detail worksheet and certified assurances can be found on SANDAG's website, which we have included a link at the end of this PowerPoint presentation, and also we included the link in the NFA. The term of funding is started in October 1, 2022, and it goes through September 30th, 2025. The program narrative components include the cover sheet, a statement of the problem, program design and implementation, capabilities and competencies, plan for collecting required data, the budget, and allowable cost, and the narrative format should be 10 pages max, not including the cover page, 1-inch margins, 12-point Times New Roman font, and it should be double spaced. Okay, now for the cover sheet specifically, we require that it includes the applicant agency name, so the official agency name, the physical address, mailing address, if they're different, and of the entity applying for funds. We also need the project director's information, so their name, title, phone number, email address of the individual who will be in charge of the project. We also need the project title included. We need the requested amount that your organization is requesting. And for the requested amount, make sure that the amount you're requesting is the same exact amount that you have in your budget. Please do not round up your number to a whole number. Just put the same exact amount that you have in your budget. That way, there's no issues when I submit your application to BJA. Additionally, we also need your proposed start and end date of the project, the target area, whether it's one of the 3 task force areas, or if you're doing a microgrant, the area that you will be focusing on, your current connections, if you have any current PSN funded effort, and an elevator pitch that describes your proposal in 1 to 2 sentences. Okay, for the program narrative, statement of the problem, please include your identified targeted enforcement area. Please also include the existing need and problem within the fiscal year 2022 focus areas, or or outside the focus area if you're applying for a micro grant. Please identify a summer violence reduction strategy that focuses on efforts in decreasing violent crime and protecting the people of your community by addressing the factors that typically increase violent crime during the summer months, and also include relevant data such as jurisdiction, arrest, and crime rates. Okay, for your program design and implementation section, please include how will the proposal be implemented. Pretty much how will your agency organization do the work? How will the proposal advance the goals and outcome measures of the U.S. Attorney's Central District of California PSN program? And this includes specific ways to support the summer violence reduction efforts. Please include as much detail as possible. That way, when I submit the selected application to BJA, we have as much detail as possible and make the process smoother. Please list collaborators or partners specific to the proposal and describe the role of each partner or collaborator. Also provide written agreements where possible. And this can be a memorandum of understanding, a contract, or a letter of agreement. And lastly, please provide a description of any connections of your proposed programs to existing PSN funded efforts. And how will this new effort build off or complement that existing effort? Okay, for the capabilities competencies section, please provide a description of your agency's capabilities to implement the program in the identified areas and within the established project timeline. Include how demonstrate expertise in collaborating with law enforcement and or criminal justice partnerships, including the U.S. Attorney's Office. Demonstrate experience in addressing gun and gang violence, including associations with conflict over turf, narcotics distribution, aggression, and or shootings. And lastly, demonstrate experience in working with law enforcement, criminal justice agencies, and or community-based partners or targeted enforcement, prevention activities, and or community engagement. Okay, plan for collecting required data. With this, you should include the process for measuring your project performance and indication of who will be responsible for submitting quarterly progress reports and performance measurement tool reports. For this one, the persons that you include in your application that will be responsible for submitting these reports, I will be, when they're selected, I will be granting them access to Just Grants and the performance measurement tool site where they will be submitted the reports.
Hey, Ruben, let me also add, I also want to highlight, on page 4 of the notice of funding availability, one of the things that we are introducing this go round in addition to the reporting requirements is we're asking all PSN funded agencies to submit a supplemental program report to the U.S. Attorney's Office and the designated research partner. And really the goal behind that is not, to increase your workload, but we really want to be able to hone in and identify, how the program is working, what we can better do to support you. At the same time, we really want to ensure that we're leveraging all the available resources we have to better evaluate, the program's effectiveness. At the same time, it's an opportunity for funded agencies to highlight your successes. We should celebrate those. At the same time, we want to be able to work collectively to address those challenges and leverage the training and technical assistance that's provided to the PSN program. For our PSN funded law enforcement partners, we're going to be requesting monthly crime statistics for the target PSN area. Again, looking at that violent crime, looking to see how the strategy is working, and working with the research partner to identify those successes, those challenges. Thank you, Ruben.
Thank you, David. Thank you for adding that. Let's continue. Okay, other important considerations for funding, and this is related to the budget. Well, before the budget, other considerations for funding is that the match is not required for this grant. The subgrantee solicitation does not require a match, and supplementing. So funds are intended to add or supplement, not replace resources already committed to the reduction of gun and gang violence efforts. Okay. And then in terms of allowable costs and unallowable costs, here we have a list of costs that are permitted for you for subgrantees to request, and this include personal costs, include salaries, fringe benefits, overtime, training, equipment, supplies, travel, contractual services when applicable, and other costs include telecommunication, equipment maintenance, fuel and vehicle maintenance, janitorial or security services, and more. Some of the unallowable costs include expenses for non-PSN activities, stipends, bonuses or commissions, first class travel, food and beverage, entertainment, lobbying or fundraising, tips and or gratuities, and costs incurred prior to sorry.
I was supposed to be on a Zoom and I was in another meeting, then jumped from this one to the next one.
And costs incurred prior to the start of the grant period. Now, when you are preparing your application and maybe you want to request funds for an item that you're not sure if it falls under the allowable cost or unallowable cost, please send me an email, and I'll contact our program manager at BJA to ask if that particular item you're requesting, if it's allowable or not. Okay, because this is just there's items that not included here that may fall under allowable or unallowable costs. Okay. Program budget items. So the budget requirements that need to be included in the program narrative include provide a budget and budget narrative that are complete, cost-effective, and allowable. Budget narratives that should demonstrate how the applicant will maximize cost effectiveness of grant expenditures. And lastly, an indirect cost rate of 10% of the total amount requested for personal costs only. Salary plus fringe is allowable only for non-governmental organizations. Now, for the budget narrative, please make sure to include as much detail as possible, and make sure to tie how your the item that you're requesting funding for, how is that going to help you achieve your goal for your program, and also how is it going to help achieve PSN goals. All applicants should use the Excel version of the OGP's budget detail worksheet, and here's the link. There's also a link included in SANDAG's website and also in the NFA. Okay, now the award selection procedure. So first step is that once we receive all the applications and after the deadline, SANDAG will determine the quality and validity of the application submission. This will take around 2 weeks for SANDAG to review all applications. After we're done with that, we'll forward all the applications to the U.S. Attorney's PSN selection committee for review, and then a meeting will be scheduled where the PSN selection committee will review, rate, and rank each responsive application. After the selection committee selects the subgrantees, they will submit the recommendation to SANDAG for ratification, and then SANDAG will be notifying the selected subgrantees that they have been selected for PSN fiscal year 2022 funding. Then SANDAG will be submitting a program summary as well as the budget to BJA for them to approve. And once that BJA approves, each recipient will receive an award letter indicating their final award amount. And once that's complete, we'll move on to the contract agreement phase. Okay.
Hey, Ruben, do you mind if I just talk a little bit about the PSN selection committee? I think folks may have some, in case folks have questions.
Of course, go ahead, David.
Thank you. So a little bit about the PSN selection committee. So the U.S. Attorney's Office is not involved in the selection of the applications. We actually have a PSN selection committee that's made up of 3 individuals who have no ties to our office. They're non-federal employees. But what they do have is they have subject matter expertise in violent crime reduction, community police relations, community engagement, violent crime reduction strategies. The 3 PSN selection committee members that we have is an attorney in the private sector. Her name's Robin Bacon. She's a former federal prosecutor. We also have Martin Vranikar, who's also a former state prosecutor and executive director of the National District Attorney's Office Association. He's currently retired now. And the last PSN selection committee member is Chief Retired John Curley, who was a former police chief of the city of Covina, again, now retired, working in another capacity. But again, all the role of the selection committee is really to be able to review all the applications, and they're the ones who actually do review all the applications that are submitted. Our office, myself, Jennifer, and the other PSN coordinators do not select the applicants. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Dave, can I jump in? This is Jennifer. I really want to emphasize that point. I just want to make sure everybody on this call understands that the U.S. Attorney's Office, we along with SANDAG help administer the grants process. And then of course we organize and hold the quarterly meetings that grant recipients have. And that's where all that great information sharing and learning about opportunities for training and assistance and technical training, things like that. That is all administered by the U.S. Attorney's Office, but the U.S. Attorney's Office has nothing to do with the actual selection of the grant recipients. That really is entirely up to the members of the selection committee that Dave just described. So I just want to make sure everybody understands that, you don't have to worry about if you've worked with the U.S. Attorney's Office in the past, is there a conflict? There's not a conflict because the U.S. Attorney's Office is not involved in the actual selection of the grant recipients. If anybody has any questions about that, feel free to post it in the chat. But I just really wanted to emphasize that in the grants process, we're here to assist in the administration of it, but not in the substantive selection.
Thanks, Jen.
Thank you, Jennifer and David. Okay, so the award selection procedure: after selected applicants, subgrantees have been funded, they are required to submit quarterly financial and programmatic reports. Here we have the reporting periods. So yeah, the individuals that you include in your application in the required data collection, they will be the ones responsible for submitting these quarterly reports.
And hey, Ruben, I just want to highlight, when you're submitting your quarterly reports, and we're going to be asking for monthly supplemental, it's not going to be a heavy lift. We're going to ask for information, but it's not going to be, too much of a heavy lift for you, but the way I see it is you're going to be, capturing certain data for the U.S. Attorney's Office and the research partner. So when you're doing your reporting, you're going to be able to use a lot of that information and highlight that in your quarterly report. So I think it's going to work out well.
Excellent point, David. Yes. And in addition to the quarterly financial reports, you are also required to submit semi-annual programmatic reports. Will you respond to some questions that basically ask you about the progress of your program? And then we have key dates. Okay, so the first key date is on the NFA release, which has posted on March 13th of this year. Then we have the information session, which is happening right now. Next one is the grant applications due, which is April 24th by 5 p.m. Pacific time. Then around the first 2 weeks of May, the review of grant applications by PSN selection committee will take place. And then around late May, June, the notification of grant award and SANDAG following up on next steps will take place. Questions?
Before we take questions, I also wanted to highlight one other key component that we've introduced for fiscal year 22. And this is for the law enforcement component, is that we're going to be introducing a violent crime case review. And basically the goal of this is for members of the U.S. Attorney's Office, our PSN coordinators working in partnership with ATF and our PSN funded law enforcement agency. The goal is to hold regular violent crime case review meetings and identify cases for federal filing, especially those involving violent gangs, felons in possession, other firearms offenses, known shooters, and other chronic violent offenders. So again, another strategy that we've introduced this year. So we're really excited about the different strategies that we're implementing this year. We really took a look at best practices, what's going on across the country, other PSN programs. We've looked at the research with regard to violent crime strategies, and we're really excited to be able to share this with everyone here. So let's open up to questions. Does anybody have any questions for us?
Sir, I had a question. I'm LEPD 77. So we don't have to find our own research partner. That's already built into the program.
Correct.
And then secondly, you mentioned dates were mentioned that run through 2025. So every year we're going to be applying for this, or do we apply for all these years combined at one application?
No, you're gonna be applying for all 3 years of the grant. So your application you submit now, it goes through the entire time of funding. So from October 1st, 2022, all the way to September 30th, 2025.
So for the targeted area, 77 Southeast and South or San Bernardino, I think you mentioned it was 600,000 for those 3 areas. Are we submitting a budget from those 600 for the 3 years, or is it going to be different for every year? I don't know if that made sense, that question.
No, it makes sense. Yeah. So you're gonna be submitting a budget based on those $600,000 for all 3 years.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments? I'm interested just to kind of hear maybe some feedback from you all on some of the new strategies that were implemented, especially for those currently funded PSN agencies. I know I recognize a few names of some of our current PSN service providers. Just curious to, what do you think of this NFA?
encouraging, exciting. Looking forward to submitting a proposal, sir.
Thank you, Russell. Great to see you. Great to hear from you.
I want to take this opportunity to introduce everybody here to our two newest members of the PSN team at the U.S. Attorney's Office. Michelle Sombrano and Terry Frank are joining the team to support the admin. And so as you are submitting questions or other administrative emails, you're probably going to be interfacing with Michelle and Terry. They're on the call now. Thank you, ladies, for joining. They literally just joined the team yesterday afternoon, and here they are on the call. That's some dedication right there. So just wanted to give them a chance to meet everybody here and for you to get to know their names, because in the process, you may be dealing with them some more. Thank you. Thank you, Michelle and Terry, for joining the team.
All right, any additional questions regarding maybe PSN in general, the NFA, anything that we can answer or clarify?
Hello, I'm out of LAPD Valley Bureau. I came a little late to the meeting, so I wasn't able to get the beginning portion of it. I do see on the email, I just saw the gentleman mention that there's funding for the LAPD 77th Division in Southeast. Is there any money allocated for the Valley Bureau any chance?
So we don't have, so two things. The first is the presentation is being recorded, and it's actually going to be posted on the SANDAG website. And
Okay.
the slide deck will also be posted, so you can take a look there, as well as our contact information in case you have any follow-up questions after you go ahead and take a look at the PowerPoint, see the presentation. But what we introduced is we have 3 task force areas, the city of San Bernardino, 77th, and LAPD's Southeast area. So within these task force areas, we have funding availability that totals $600,377. Now, outside the task force areas, we have, we're introducing micro grants in the amount of $50,000 for anywhere outside of those task force areas within the Central District of California. And our district, and it's highlighted in the notice of funding availability, is made up of 7 counties. So LA being one of them, LA, Riverside, San Bernardino, Orange, Ventura, San Luis Obispo, Santa Barbara. So our district is huge, and links to the maps, our district boundaries can all be found on the SANDAG website, which is, the link is on the notice of funding availability.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Good morning, everyone. This is Cynthia McCluskey from JSS. I just wanted to comment on the monthly supplemental report that's being proposed in the NFA. I just wanted to say, as the current research partner, I think that is a really helpful idea for a couple of different reasons. I think one of the things that will be, and hopefully, and it sounds like it's not going to be much of a heavy lift for programs to be able to do that. And it would be really helpful from a researcher's perspective to have the supplemental reports to kind of keep track of where everybody is. You know, we do our best as we can now with sort of making contact and trying to keep on top of all of that. But I think for the research partner for fiscal year 2022, I think that element will be really helpful. I just wanted to reiterate that.
Awesome. Thank you, Cynthia. That's great. Thank you for that feedback.
Sir, this is Al Navarro again. One question. If we are applying for different grants, will this conflict with the program that you're outlining right now, or can we only apply for one?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understand the question.
I had read somewhere previously that you don't want to, or somebody didn't want to see different money being allocated to the same area. So for example, if you're already getting funding from some federal agency for your task force, to not apply for this program. I don't know if that's correct, or can we apply, even though we're applying for outside funding from another grant, can we still apply for this one?
Mm. I'm still not sure, but I'm not sure if anyone from Sandag wants to weigh in, but yeah, so just so I understand, you're asking if you're receiving federal funding within that target area, can you still apply for another federal, or can you apply for PSN? for
Correct.
that?
Yes,
that-
can I apply for PSN even though I'm not sure the details, so I'm not trying to be vague. I just don't know all the details to give you, but I'm being told there's another opportunity for a grant. And I had previously seen a statement somewhere saying do not kind of like don't mix efforts. If the money, if you're gonna get money from somewhere else, please don't apply for this one, leave it for somebody else. So I'm not sure if you were to find out later that we are getting funding from a different grant, if that would conflict with this PSN grant.
Mhm. I mean,
Uh,
I'll let you answer that one, Ruben.
So you are able to apply as long as you don't mix the fundings from both grants, like they don't overlap. You're able to apply. You just have to, there's a form that you have to include in your application that's called the disclosure of pending applications, where you will include that other grant that you're applying for. That way BJA is aware.
Okay, I understand. And just, it's obvious that there's no guarantee we'll get that funding, but I just want to be fully disclosure on that we would be applying for any other opportunities that come up.
Got it.
Hey, Ruben, could you drop the NFA link to the webpage again into the chat? I mean, everybody, was on it at some point because that's where the registration for this session was. But, in case you have more questions, a lot of the information is going to be there. And as Dave mentioned, sorry, I'm walking on my desk treadmill. Let me just stop that so you don't have to listen to me walk. This whole session was recorded, and I think we're going to post a link to the recording on the webpage as well, right, Ruben? We can also include a PDF of the slides that we showed during the presentation there as well. So Ruben, if you wouldn't mind dropping that link into the chat, that way everybody has it for reference. You can go back to it if you want to rewatch the video, if you want to review the slides. As I mentioned in the chat, since Terry and Michelle just joined our team, their info is not up on there yet, but it will. And if you just Google Sandag PSN, Central District, California, you come up with a link that doesn't exist anymore. So don't worry about it. Use this one instead, because it looks like Sandag has just redone their website recently. So there's some archived links that are now not in use.
Hey,
Thank-
Ruben, do you mind going over to the next slide just to show the contact info?
Of course.
Thank you.
Yeah, here you can see the link to Sandag's website of the PSN Central district, where you can find all the information. Yes, as Jennifer mentioned, Sandag's website just went through a renovation late last year. So yeah, if you find any old links that work, please feel free to send me an email and I can guide you to the right links.
Any additional questions?
You guys did a great job, David. There ain't no questions.
Thank you, Russell.
Well, I
That's all
want to
right.
add my very heartfelt thanks to Ruben and the Sandag team for handling this admin part. And a really, really, really huge thank you to David Cons, our law enforcement coordinator, who has been just a superhero in putting all this together, in dealing with all of the logistics and making sure that today's presentation was as informative and awesome as it was, and for all of his years of service on PSN specifically, but overall in the U.S. Attorney's Office. So thank you, David. And if you guys have any other questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Otherwise, have a wonderful rest of the day and try to stay dry out there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm
Okay,
going to
moving-
stop the recording.